All right, so today we're diving into something pretty visually stunning. It's a photo essay, and it documents the Eid-e-Milad celebration in Rawalpindi, Pakistan.
Yeah.
And it's not, just looking at pretty pictures or anything like that. It really is
Uh-huh.
a deep dive
Yeah.
into, the sights, the sounds, and even, I would say, the feel of this vibrant festival, all through the lens of visual anthropology.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this so fascinating. It's not just observing from the outside, you really get a sense of the celebration through the people who are actually living it, breathing it.
Right.
And Dr. Awab Sibtain, who authored the essay, he collaborated with Arsalan Moghul,
Yeah.
who's a videographer, and Noman Rashid, who's a photographer.
Wow.
And together they create this really rich tapestry of experiences from, motorbike prizes to this really interesting blend of traditional and modern music.
Yeah, that was one of the things that really stood out to me when I was looking at this. I was like, wait a minute, there's some
Yeah.
technological aspects here that I wasn't really expecting. Yeah, absolutely.
So much to unpack here, but I think first we need to sort of transport ourselves to the heart of it all. And that's Fuwara,
Okay.
which is this bustling square in Rawalpindi, and we're talking about a scorching hot summer day.
Wow. You can almost feel the energy building as the day goes on, stretching into the evening.
Mhm.
And Fuwarachak becomes this vibrant stage for this entire celebration.
It's interesting because it's like a public square, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very
Because it's not like,
public space.
yeah, this is like tucked away somewhere. This is really like right out there for
Right,
everyone.
front and center, yeah.
And at the center of all of this are the Nat Kawans.
Yes.
These are singles who recite poetry praising the Prophet Muhammad.
Right.
And they're performing on these elaborately decorated platforms, and each one is equipped with a massive sound system,
Oh, wow.
which is amplifying their voices across the entire square.
Yeah, just imagine that the power of that sound, echoing through the streets, drawing everyone in. It's really interesting because they're using this modern technology, right?
Yeah,
To amplify these very traditional songs.
exactly.
And speaking of that, the essay mentions this really interesting detail. They've started to incorporate the duff,
Yes,
which is a traditional frame drum,
right.
into these recitations.
And I think that speaks to how traditions evolve,
Yeah.
honoring the past, but also finding ways to kind of make it relevant for the present generation.
Yeah, like bringing in some of that modern influence.
Yeah, exactly. And it adds this whole other layer to the soundscape of the celebration.
Now, one of the most striking things about the photo essay, and visually, is this recurring motif of the Nalain Mubarak.
Right.
And I have to admit, I wasn't familiar with this, but this represents the prophet's shoes.
Yeah, and it's more than just a symbol of the shoes themselves. It's really a powerful reminder of the prophet's humility
Humility, okay?
and a tangible connection to his legacy.
Interesting.
And throughout history, replicas of the Nale Mubarak have been venerated,
Yeah.
as these objects of great spiritual significance. And here in Rawalpindi, they become these visual anchors for the entire celebration, grounding it in this deep reverence and devotion.
You see them everywhere too, right? I mean, it's not just like one thing.
Right.
It's like small badges and then huge banners and even these larger-than-life models.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And speaking of visuals, the banners themselves are just incredible. They're not just decorations. They're these vibrant expressions of community pride,
Absolutely.
showcasing religious symbols, neighborhood names, affiliations with all these different organizations.
It's really like a visual tapestry of the community itself, highlighting all the diverse groups that come together for this shared experience.
Yeah, it's not just like one homogenous group. It's like everybody.
Exactly.
And that sense of shared identity is further reinforced, I think, by the clothing.
Right.
Because a lot of the men and boys are wearing white with green accents,
Yeah.
which symbolizes the prophet's mausoleum.
Right. And it's this visual expression of their faith and connection to the celebration.
It's interesting how they blend this collective identity with a sense of individual expression as well.
Yeah.
Because the essay mentions that people will personalize their caps
Yes.
with symbols representing their own individual
Yeah.
religious affiliations.
Right. So it's that beautiful interplay between the individual and the collective, finding unity within this diversity.
Right.
And it's not just about visual spectacle, it's about this sense of generosity and inclusivity.
Right.
The concept of langar, which is offering free food during religious festivals, that's a major part of Eid-e-Milad.
Yeah, they talk about everything from traditional dishes to kebabs.
Yeah.
And it's not even just limited to the main square. Like some people order these huge pre-cooked meals
Right.
to distribute in their neighborhoods.
So they're extending that act of generosity beyond just the public sphere.
So they're really taking it like to the next level.
Absolutely. And I think it speaks to the essence of the celebration, making sure that everyone, regardless of their background or social standing, can participate and share in the joy of the occasion.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, you can't forget Sabeel,
Right.
which is the practice of offering free water, which
Mhm.
on a hot day like this is,
Essential.
I mean, especially crucial.
Yeah. It's especially crucial.
But it's just this simple act of kindness, right? It's a gesture of care that embodies the spirit of community that seems to be at the heart of this whole thing.
Exactly. And, the essay doesn't just focus on the main square and the grand spectacle.
Right.
It also takes us to these quieter side streets, revealing kind of those individual experiences within the larger event.
Yeah, they talk about a henna artist patiently waiting for customers, but it seems like most people are caught up in the main festivities.
Yeah.
It's a different pace, a different kind of connection. It's interesting.
And I think that's what makes this photo essay so compelling. It captures both the grandeur and the intimacy of the celebration, acknowledging that individual experiences can vary even within this shared event. Yeah.
But even in those quieter areas, you can tell that the spirit of the celebration is just undeniable. They describe these alleyways that are adorned with ribbons and lights and families preparing these special meals to share, which echoes the generosity we see in the main square.
Yeah, it's really bringing it back home.
Yeah, exactly. It's those personal touches,
Yeah.
that really bring the celebration to life.
And let's not forget about the role of local leaders and businesses in all of this.
Oh, yeah.
Because you see their banners, prominently displayed, and they're often present on those platforms, showing their support, showing their involvement.
Yeah, it really reinforces this idea that Eid-e-Milad is a true community effort.
Yeah.
It brings together people from all walks of life. The local trade union, for example, has a really significant presence.
Oh, wow. With their own stage and banners, and it highlights these diverse groups that contribute to the celebration, to the vibrancy of it all.
It's interesting, though, because, we're talking about these sound systems.
Yes.
And I remember reading that in the essay, and I just thought, wow, that must be
Quite an experience.
really something to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit? Because I don't think I fully grasp.
Yeah, they describe these speakers stacked high, amplifying the Nat Kawan's voices to this incredible volume.
So it's not just like one little speaker.
No,
Like
it's a full-on production.
wow.
Imagine standing there, in that square, surrounded by the sound of these poetic recitations, completely immersed in this energy.
It must be a little overwhelming.
I would think so, yeah.
But in a good way, I imagine.
But in a good way. Yeah, exactly.
Now, and remember that detail about the duff being incorporated into the recitation.
Oh, yes. That's a fascinating example of how traditions evolve and adapt. The duff adds this whole new dimension to the sound,
Right.
connecting to these older musical traditions while still feeling fresh and relevant.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that culture isn't static, it's living, it's breathing, it's constantly evolving.
Kind of curious, how did Dr. Sibtain and his collaborators actually capture this? I mean, did they just kind of wander around and snap some photos, or was it more?
I think it was a little more involved than that.
Okay.
The introduction mentions they used a combination of techniques.
Okay.
Like they used wide-angle lenses to capture the grandeur and scope of the entire celebration.
So you get that real sense of scale.
Exactly. But then they also use zoom lenses to focus on these intimate details and individual expressions.
So they're getting both the macro and the micro.
Exactly. It's like weaving together a tapestry of different perspectives.
Yeah.
And creating this multi-layered portrait of the event.
And they did all of this on a scorching summer day.
It's true. I mean, think about the heat, the crowds, the constant activity. It all just adds to this energy, this vibrancy.
I could really almost feel it.
Absolutely.
Just by reading the essay.
Yeah.
But they're not just documenting the event, right?
Yeah.
They're really trying to help us understand.
It goes deeper than that. There's a deeper understanding of the cultural significance
Okay.
that they're trying to get across.
So as we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
what are some of the key takeaways that you've gotten from this photo essay?
I think the most powerful takeaway is this use of visual anthropology to go beyond just surface level observation.
Okay.
You know, we're not just looking at pretty pictures here. We're actually gaining insight into this community's faith,
Right.
their traditions, and the very essence, I think, of what it means to belong.
Yeah, you really get transported there.
You really do.
I mean, I felt like I was in Rawalpindi.
Me too.
Just looking at these pictures and reading this essay, you know.
Experiencing the sights and sounds.
Yeah, but I'm curious to know more about those individual stories that are kind of woven into this larger event.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, the essay hints at those individual narratives, but it definitely leaves us wanting more.
Yeah.
It's like a doorway, you know, into a deeper understanding of the human experience within this vibrant cultural tapestry.
It really makes you wonder about, like, the stories behind the faces in the crowd. You know, like,
Yeah.
what are their personal motivations? What
Yeah.
are the meanings that they bring to this?
Exactly like that henna artist we were talking about, patiently waiting for customers,
Right.
or those families preparing those special meals to share,
Yeah.
each individual, you know, contributing to the larger tapestry of the event.
Right.
It creates this incredible mosaic of experiences.
And speaking of individual experiences, they mentioned some pretty incredible prizes that were being awarded.
Oh, yeah, they weren't just giving out medals and certificates.
Okay.
Some Nat Kawans actually received motorbikes.
A motorbike.
Yeah.
Wow.
It really highlights that level of community support,
Right.
the value they place on this tradition.
That's quite a prize.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, that says a lot
It does.
about, you know, how important this is.
It's not just a religious observance, it's a cultural phenomenon.
Right.
You know, it brings people together, it strengthens those bonds, it reinforces that shared identity.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into this incredible photo essay,
Yeah.
what would you say is its lasting impact?
You know, I think its brilliance lies in its ability to capture both the grand scale and the intimate details
Right.
of Eid-e-Milad in Rawalpindi.
Okay.
It's a visual feast, but it also offers this really profound glimpse into the heart of a community. You know,
Right.
their faith, their traditions, the spirit of generosity that really binds them all together.
And for anyone who's listening who wants to experience this even more vividly,
Yeah.
there's a link to Arsalan Mogul's video footage
Yes.
in the essay.
Highly recommend checking that out. It's like stepping right into the heart of the celebration.
Wow. So you can really get
You're right there.
immersed in it.
You're right there.
Yeah. Well, this brings our deep dive to a close, but,
Mm,
you know, the exploration doesn't have to end here.
that's right.
I mean, think about all these things we've been talking about, the individual stories, the personal connections,
Yeah.
the acts of generosity.
Yeah. And, you know, something to consider.
Okay.
How do all of these visual and experiential details
Right.
contribute to a community's sense of shared identity and belonging?
It's a really good question
Yeah.
and something to think about.
Yeah.
And as always, there's more to discover, more to explore. Until next time, keep those curious minds engaged and keep diving deep. We'll see you on our next adventure.